All right, Ty Oswald from Bearded Warriors in Huntsville, Alabama. Thanks for being with me today, Ty.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Yeah, man, really grateful for the work you're doing up there in Huntsville. So I've known you, Ty, for a few years now, and just watched kind of from a distance the work that you're doing up there, and it's been really cool to watch. Very impressive what you're doing. So yeah, I appreciate you being here, and we'll just hop into conversation. I'd love to hear just your story, just about you, your whatever you want to share about your military experience and how you got going with Bearded Warriors.
Yeah, for sure. So I joined the Army right out of high school in 2000. I went in the military under the aviation branch to be a Kiowa helicopter systems repairer. Fast forward 3 years from 2000, and we got deployed to Iraq prior to everything like really kicking off with Baghdad and stuff like that. Spent 15 months in Iraq. Um, Although the military probably put up about $300,000 to teach me how to rewire helicopters. While I was deployed, I did convoy security and patrols and VIP escorts and stuff through all the various FOBs through Iraq. Um, Dealt with a few IED blasts, some indirect fire stuff, a couple of incidents that have kind of like I say haunt me, but have stayed with me for quite a while, and my PTS from that. Um, I'll get back into that in a minute. But then I moved back home. Like I said, like you said earlier, from Huntsville, a big military uh, defense subcontract, town. So job opportunities here were pretty prevalent. So I came back here. Plus, the cost of living from when I was in Washington was way less. So Alabama looked really good.
Yeah,
Um, but having Redstone not being a typical Army post where units deploy from and stuff like that, there's not a at the for our generation of OEF OIF vets, a lot of combat vets that I could relate to. Um, Tried a couple of different things with the VA. They put me in some group counseling sessions. Everybody in the group counseling sessions were Korea and Vietnam era. So there was almost zero camaraderie there. I mean,
all right.
served in the military, did all the formations and motor pool, mumbo jumbo that everybody complains about, but uh, two totally different eras and styles of one combat, but then also generational. Like these guys were my grandparents' age, so there was no like eye to eye conversation that I could have on everyday stuff.
Right.
Um, which was kind of off putting for a while. I did a couple of other um, third party veteran group events, but I just kind of felt like for me, I mean, it may have helped from some of the other guys, but for me, it just felt like it was a little blown out of proportion of what the actuality of help was to what they promised, kind of thing.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
and then,
I've heard that.
yeah, and it's just one of those, like, I mean, it's like anything. Somebody's selling a product and they want you to come and, you know, I guess, I don't know, entertainment value. I don't know. I don't know, lack of better terms. Like, I just like it, it was very off putting because it was like what you're told on this hand and then what you show up and experience on this side, or it just didn't even out. And
Right.
a lot of the stuff, especially early on for OEF and OIF vets, at least in my case, we're still in the super early planning stages because they weren't ready. As I say, society wasn't ready for you know hundreds of thousands of 21 to 27-year-old, I mean, quote unquote, like alpha male guys coming back from combat
Right.
with the technology and new and just different kinds of avenues for um, trying to keep that adrenaline rush going. From, like I said, like I did 15 months in Iraq, with no break. We did there, R&R wasn't a thing. Like
Oh,
we were just there.
yeah.
And then you go from 15, that much time at this level, and then all of a sudden on a plane ride home, you're expected to be back down at this level with zero transition of coming down off of that, or hey, this is what you should expect, or this is what we, but nobody could tell us any of that because I don't think anybody knew. I mean,
Right.
20 something years later, everybody's got a, hindsight's 2020, and there's all kinds of uh briefings and training and heads ups and even pre-deployment stuff that gets you, you know, on a baseline so that they can check you when you get back to make sure that your levels of function and cognitive thinking and everything are where they should be and stuff like that. And so once none of those things worked out for me, I kind of just fell off for a little while. Went to work, went home, went to the grocery store when I needed something. I self-isolated myself to the point where the invites weren't being declined by me. They just weren't even being offered because it was like, well, we can ask him, but he ain't going to show up. So it got to the point where they just quit asking. So just hung out at my house on my laptop and kind of did my own thing, which wasn't good. It wasn't bad. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I mean, I was probably drinking too much.
But
But
just that isolation is not healthy.
no. I mean, but inside looking out, I was like, well, I'm just at home, not doing anything, so I'm not bothered. Nobody's bothering me, and I'm not bothering anybody else. So, no harm, no foul. Which, 10 years into what I'm doing now is probably the absolute worst thing that I could have done. So for about 3 years, that's what I did. I went to work, I went home, and did very little outside of the house stuff. I was single, so it's not like I had anybody depending on me or expecting me to go do something or be somewhere. Um, and then I had a coworker kind of pull me off to the side one day. He was also a vet, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm not trying to get into your business, because it's not, but we work together, and it seems like something's going on." He's like, "Maybe you need to go talk to somebody."
Yeah.
So I did that.
That's good looking out on his part, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I tell him that all the time. And I honestly think that if he hadn't have done that, then I mean, all of the stuff that I've been doing for the last 10 years wouldn't be a thing. I mean, brass tacks, I probably wouldn't be a thing either, because I would have just kept going down a rabbit hole that I didn't even know I was in. And then who knows what would have happened.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, yeah, which
and
I
then
think
so
is such an important thing to highlight is when someone saw something they were concerned about, they said something, and I think
right.
it's so important to pay attention to who's around you just, and if you see something that's concerning in someone, bring it up to them
Yeah, for sure.
know,
And I
and
don't even think it has anything to do with he was a vet and I'm a vet. I think it's just come down to just as humans, he was somebody that saw somebody else that looked like they were struggling,
Mhm.
and he's like, hey, like, I can't help. I know I can't help you because this, it seems like it's outside of my wheelhouse. He's like, but I think you should try to find somebody that can. And that was the catalyst that shot everything off for where we are today.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fantastic.
but then after not finding any local resources, which I thought was very surprising since Redstone Arsenal is here, and the
All right.
amount of veterans, retirees, people that even like myself. I mean, even though I'm from here originally, there's a lot of people that were stationed here that loved like the area and then stayed here after they either ended their service time or retired. Um, there wasn't any there weren't any organizations or events going on that were geared to vets or their family members, getting them together to get out and do anything, whether it was a military related or veteran, you know, themed event at all. There was just nothing getting anybody together at community events in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably 4 or 5 months more of, you know, banging my head on the wall trying to find things that were suitable or that I felt that would give me some sort of direction, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or help, or somebody to talk to, or somebody that I could relate to, kind of a like-minded, like experienced, um, things that I was like, I guess, really seeking out as somebody that I could talk to without getting the giant eyeballs at the end of the conversation once it got to so far into my deployment time and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, And so it turned into why isn't anybody, or why hasn't anybody, uh, turned into, well, why don't I, or why can't I? Kind of like putting it on like ownership to myself of why.
Mhm.
Well, if nobody else is going to do it, well, why don't you do it? Since it's not a thing, make it a thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just created a Facebook page, Bearded Warriors. A lot of that was because the initial mindset was, when a lot of guys get out of the military, for me, 6 years, or somebody else 10 or 12 or 20 or 20 plus years, you got clean shaven every single day. And the first thing everybody does when they get out is throw their razor away, and they're
Right.
like, "I don't need this thing anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also looked at that as a way, because when a couple years into my journey with Bearded Warriors and the things we were doing in the community and talking to vets, and, kind of even self-reflection with myself was, you know, if you see me walking down the road, like, I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'7", but I'm 240 pounds. I lift weights. I got sleeve tattoos. I'm neck tattoo. I got neck tattoo. Neck tattoos. I got the whole nine of. If somebody saw me walking up towards them, they might be a little bit concerned about what's going on. Um, but at the same time, it's just a look, for a lot of guys, because they're hiding a bunch of hurt or pain, or mental issues, or mental, just breakdowns. And am I enough, or what am I doing, or why am I here, or what's
Yeah.
going on, or
Mhm.
just thinking about guys, or the girls that they lost while they're deployed, or people,
Mhm.
just all of those different things. um and so this, like, everybody talks about putting a mask on. And everybody, when you see somebody and he was always smiling, and he was always happy, he was very outgoing, and like, that's a mask. And it's like, for me, I was able to hide behind my physical looks, my beard, and, just the way I appeared to everybody.
Mhm.
Um, but I might as well have been like a 115-pound kid soaking wet that was getting his ass kicked every day, kind of thing, because that's what
Right.
was going on in my head.
Yep.
And it was me doing it to myself.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
and
think,
so,
one thing I think, Ty, is that, people, we talk about the sacrifice the veterans make, and the sacrifice is real, but I think a lot of times people look at that sacrifice as your time enlisted and your time deployed, um, without always recognizing that even coming back, there's sacrifice involved in there. With, like you said earlier, the questions like, what am I doing? Like, what's my purpose? Where do I fit? Like, the sacrifice continues. It's not just enlisted time. It's not just deployment, but the sacrifice is goes on.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the struggle doesn't end. If anything, it may even begin when
Well,
you.
it'll compound, because whatever's going on, then you just stack regular life of bills and marriage and kids and job. And,
Yeah.
I mean, even as simple stuff as going out and cutting the grass and keeping up with, yard, just household chores and stuff like that,
Mhm.
add on to everything. If you're already here, and then you start stacking more stuff on top of that, like that yeah, it's detrimental. It's super
Yeah.
bad, which is a cool. I mean, we can, I'll talk about it in a second, but, little things like that are things where you can, like, like, just like my coworker stepped in and said, "Hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but I think you might need some help. Like,
Mhm.
reach out." Is a really cool thing with, one of our projects that we do twice a year with Home Depot, is where we take, um, 50 to 100 volunteers, show up to a nominated vet's house, and take $25,000 worth of material.
Mhm.
So fences, mulch, plants,
Mhm.
uh, all the things that you would need to beautify somebody's yard, and cut their grass and trim the trees and paint and pressure wash and stuff like that, times, up to 100 people. And
Yeah.
then after 2 days, taking, uh, physical requirements away from a vet that has physical issues that can't get out and cut his grass all the time, or trim the trees, or paint that, or pressure wash this, and then being able to take that mental weight off
Yeah.
of them, because now they don't have to physically rely on what they're like the things that they're unable to do, um, because of injuries or an illness and stuff like
Yeah.
that, that make the other small things stack up.
Mhm.
We have one coming up in a couple of weeks on May 2nd and 3rd. The vet's 100%, can't get out. He's got a laundry list of injuries and surgeries and stuff like that coming up, and so that's left his wife with a lot of the uh, all of the inside stuff, and then most of the outside stuff if he's not able to. And so she's carrying the load of 100% of the inside of the house, and then 85% of the outside of the house. And so the things that we're going to do in the next couple of weeks is going to alleviate about 50% of the stuff that she has to take care of outside, because,
Wow.
um, just an effort of, we see something, we're going to go try to help fix it for them because they're not able to, we are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And the cool thing is you're serving those men and women who need service, but also the men and women who are contributing. They're also being served by contributing. It's like
Right.
it's a win-win for everyone.
For sure. Yeah. And it's like I said, it's a very simple way to get vets involved in the community.
Yeah.
Just like you said, both sides. Like, we're getting Paul and his family involved with us by coming to their home and then basically fixing almost anything outside of the house problems that they have. But then, you know, team Team Depot with their veteran employees, and then Bearded Warriors with our vets and family members and in their community support members are coming to their house. And then, the camaraderie that happens when, it's not the same thing as trauma bonding, but the same thing is like where you have all these people focused on one thing to help this one person, and then through that effort they all become better friends
Yeah.
because they've all put themselves out there to do something for somebody else. And really the only thanks is they're going to get a handshake and a bunch of thank yous and stuff like that, but that the takeaway is the most rewarding thing, because
Sure. Yeah. The reward is a lot greater than the thank you.
for sure. Well, yeah, for sure. Because what'll happen is everybody will show up to that event or any other event that we do, and then have the event, but then the takeaway that they have and the feeling they have on that, they're able to take that and then share that with somebody else when they see them again. Like, because, be like, oh, hey, what'd you guys do on Friday? Like, oh man, I went to this vet's house. We did all of these things. This is what it looked like. They're gonna, because everybody takes before pictures, and they're like, man, this is what it looked like when we showed up. This is what it looks like when we left. The people that were there were amazing. That it was just such a great event. And then hopefully what that does is whoever they share that with, the next time they see one pop up for an event, they're like, hey, I remember when so and so said what they did at this event and how cool it was.
Yeah.
I want to go. And then that like I said, that same takeaway, that same share,
Yep.
and then it's just that ripple effect of doing good for people.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's really cool. And that's like just an example of what you guys do. But tell me, like, so Bearded Warriors started in 2013, so 10 years old or
Yeah.
more. And you guys use community and service, and it's all about just well-being, mental health, and suicide prevention. So tell me kind of the idea behind Bearded Warriors, and all the things that you do, and why community is so important, why service is so important for veterans.
Well, so the last thing that we want to talk about is suicide. And it seems very backwards considering we're a suicide prevention nonprofit or an organization that tries to combat suicide.
Mhm.
But the premise of that is, if you or your family member or whatnot is involved, and connected with people that you can relate to and have conversations with and be comfortable with talking about issues that are going on, then the suicide conversation or the suicide thoughts or the idealizations that come with thinking that you don't have anybody to reach out or talk to kind of go away, because there's always somebody there willing, there's always somebody that you're able to reach out to
Yeah.
Whether it's the organization as a whole, like if somebody wanted to reach out to our through our email, website, or text or phone call, and talk to me, or if it's somebody that they met at another event that they just kind of clicked with, and they both like baseball, or they both like cars, or they both like drinking beer, or building woodworking and stuff. I mean, just whatever, whatever those things are, building that community to, because a lot of times it happens, like, I said earlier, some people get stationed here at Redstone. They're hundreds of miles away from any extended family or their parents, or
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And then so when you get out, uh, a lot of times you lose that sense of community that you had with the people that you were, working with day in and day out, or that you could, hey, I need help moving these things from the garage upstairs, and you had 10 people you could call, but then all of a sudden you're in a new city or a new job or a new situation.
Mhm.
And so just trying to keep that line of communication open, so
Yeah.
that you don't feel like you're forgotten about, because a lot of, like I said, especially if you come into a new area and you don't know anybody, I mean, hell, I lived here, and I still put myself in a position where I wasn't invited to things because people just quit asking me to come, because I wasn't going to show up, because I just got
Right.
so kind of, so far down in the dumps that I was like, well, I don't want to go do anything, and nobody's going to hang out with me because of the like the attitude that I'm going to bring to the whatever and stuff. And so it's
Yeah.
keeping those open lines of communication, so that that there's somebody out there that's willing to talk to you or listen or help, is always great.
Yeah. Man, that's great. Yeah, and just the connectedness with community, with other veterans and families, because I think that's the thing too, is like families of veterans also, I think, can feel isolated, and connecting families together and connecting veterans together is pretty amazing. And then the service part of it, like the stuff you guys do for, your, food drives and home repair things like you're just talking about, and all the service stuff, like it really gives, a sense of purpose, which is so important in, and maintaining, good mental health and well-being, is to have a sense of purpose. And when you know that you're joining with other people to be on mission, for something that matters. Like on your website, you say, something along the lines of like getting people back in the trenches of service, and that's really cool, because people, to me, that has a lot to do with purpose. And
Yeah, for sure. Well, and a lot of, and it's like the stuff that we, so yeah, you talked about the drives that we do. 3 times a year, we do item drives. Depending on the time of year, it'll be what those items are. But for the homeless camps that are here in Huntsville, um, we don't discern whether you're a vet or not when we hand things out at the camp, because it's not like, I give a bucket of stuff to this guy, and then they go, "Oh, are you a vet?" No, oh, sorry, these are only for vets. We're not going to give you anything. I mean, I mean, there are groups that do that, and I think that's very weird. But we do that because, and then we always, not necessarily on the day we give the stuff out, but it is at least on the days that we collect everything and put it all together, we always try to include the kids in that, just as a little bit of a 40,000 foot view of like real life stuff. Like it could happen, I mean, everybody, what's the, I don't know, this probably show my age, but everybody, everybody's 2 paychecks away from being homeless, depending on what happens in their situation, kind of thing like that. But
yeah,
like, but also, uh, the empathy part of it is, keeping the kids to where, there's probably, I think there's like 300, right around 350 homeless people in and around the Huntsville area. I mean, I'm sure there's more on the outlying areas in town, like concentrated area in Huntsville, but also making it to where, uh, even some of our own guys, like I'll be the first to admit, 12 years ago, if I saw a homeless person, I would ignore them 100%, because I just didn't want to deal with it, didn't have time, didn't want the 30 questions, or the hounding that you kind of get from her or whatever. Um, but then it was like, my eyes were open to a situation where we were asked by one of our guys, to help out with another event that was going on that they were struggling with. And they knew that we had the resources to be able to kind of fill in some gaps and whatnot. And so we did it. I mean, it didn't bother me. Um, but then, it just kind of put a different perspective for myself, because after we spoke to a couple of folks that were getting the items and stuff for us, it was like uh, two mistakes and a choice is what led them there. And then just the way that, that isolation and not reaching out and trying to get help and stuff like that just compounded their situation to the point where, like, a lot of them are just stuck there.
Mhm.
But it just gives you a totally different perspective of, some of the places you drive around in town, you don't really see anything. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're broadened to, or eyes open to, what's going on.
Mhm.
But it's a very easy way to get involved in the community. And, the biggest part of it is, helping somebody out that, like I was at the judge of somebody's character is watching them help somebody that can never return the favor.
Mhm.
Not one person that we've given any of the items to at for any of the homeless drives in the 10, well, in the 7 years that we've been doing that, not one of them have been able to return anything for us or whatever like that. But it's just one of those, you're helping, you're getting the community involved. I mean, I've got a 3-car garage, and the last drive that we did filled up 3/4 of our garage with stuff
Wow.
that we put in and whatnot.
Man,
So,
that's amazing.
but it's just, just those little things. But
Yeah.
then it's also those little things in those drives that bring people together in the community,
Mhm.
that foster different or bigger or better ideas.
Yeah, and you say little things. I mean, sure, maybe it's a little thing, but it's a bit like for the person on the receiving end, it's a huge thing.
For sure. For sure.
Just like even I'm thinking back to like your buddy at work who said, "Hey, man, I'm concerned about you." Like that was a little thing to say something, but that was a huge thing. I mean, it changed the course of your of everything of your life, your
Yeah.
well being. Like you said, you might not be here today without that.
Right.
Bearded Warriors wouldn't be here today without that. That's just one guy that said one thing, which is a little thing, but those little things are so important. And just the willingness to do the little things, I think, is huge. So tell me, so if someone were watching this video and maybe a vet who's struggling themselves or a vet who wants to be involved, like you guys are in Huntsville, but if someone is somewhere else in the country watching this video, like what would you say to that person? Maybe if they're struggling about community, about service, about reaching out for help, and like is what y'all are doing something that can be duplicated in other places, and like just kind of some of the stuff that y'all do that can be easily replicated if someone wants to start something similar.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, I 100% don't think I invented the wheel on anything that I'm doing here. Uh, I think it's maybe the frequency that it happens that we do it is probably a little bit different than a lot of people are used to in this area. But yeah, 100% could be replicated anywhere. For vets that are struggling with stuff and needs to reach out, they can always reach out to us on our Instagram or Facebook page or through the website. We'll get an email. All the text and email come to me, so it's not like you're not talking to a call center or some random whatever. Like you're speaking directly with me.
Yeah.
And then so with the like so between for here locally it works out, but like I've lived here, say I'm 41, so 38 years in Huntsville. I mean, I know so many people and organizations and groups and clinics and stuff like that help out here. But uh, my 6 years in the military and then 15 years as a DoD civilian and the network of people and places of all those folks and stuff like that. So if you're anywhere, I mean, if you send me a message and say, "Hey, I'm in uh, was it Washington or California or Vermont," if you give me a city, I can get you with it. I can get you a resource. I can find you a resource within 20 miles of you, within a
Wow.
couple of minutes, just because of the network of people from all the different facets and jobs and stuff like that I've had over the last 41 years.
Yeah.
That I can get you in contact with somebody, and it would be somebody that I would go to myself. Like, I'm not going to send you to some random person or place without having some sort of a vetting system with it, or if
Yeah.
there's not a place that I can find, um, there's 4 to 6 people that are involved with our organization in every single state, and so I can get you in contact with them, and then they can be the me in that area to get
Yeah.
you to, whether it's a VA organization, a VA program, or a third party organization. The best place that I can tell everybody to go to, and every state has, I think, at least 2, is it's called the Vet Center. It's a part of the VA.
Yeah.
There are counselors and therapists that are all prior service, and most of them are combat vets themselves that have gotten out and gone to school and wanted to, be able to give back to other veterans serving and dealing with the same, dealing literally with the same things that we all deal with coming back from combat and those stressors and stuff like that. But it's a great resource, and they have a little bit more flexibility in getting into some of the outlying VA programs that you may not be able to get through for your primary doctor. So that's always like my number one resource for a vet that's saying they're struggling with something that has combat time, is to seek out their local vet center. And then from there, they can that organ the group or organization, if you want to call it, from the vet center can reach out to other programs in the VA and within the community.
Yeah, man, that's great. So if someone wanted to find you online or Instagram, Facebook, how would they do that? And also, is there a website that people can go to, like vet centers, to find their local vet center in whatever community they're in?
Yeah, if they go to the va.gov/vet centers, it gives you a list, and you click on it. It gives you a map of the all the states, and you just click on your state, and then it lists down the cities that each of the vet centers are at.
Cool.
For Bearded Warriors, it's pretty easy. Just facebook.com/Bearded Warriors, or on Instagram, it's @bearded.warriors. We have a Twitter account. Nobody really follows it, but yeah, everything cross posts onto there. I do get the notifications for it. So if somebody has, well, I guess it's X now. If you have that, you can reach out through us through that. The new Threads app, we have an account on there that I monitor all the social media. So like if you send a message to anything that's Bearded Warriors related,
Yep.
I'll get it and I'll respond to it. And then we have
Cool.
our website, beardedwarriors.org.
Nice. Awesome. Ty, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate what y'all are doing in Huntsville, and just the maybe the motivation you'll be to someone else to start something in their community. I think y'all are doing great things. I really appreciate all that you're doing. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate being able to highlight it. I think it's always good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks. You too, man.